Alright, so we're going to go over our quadratic equations. We have question 3C. Question is just to find the zeros. That's what the goal of this is. It says find zeros. Or that's also known as the x-intercepts. And what they're talking about, we sketch a little graph here. So we have a graph like this. The zeros are where the parabola crosses the x-intercept. That's what they're talking about. Okay. So, what we have to recognize first of all is which form we're in. And there's three major forms: standard, factored, and vertex. Okay, so we got to be able to tell which one of the three.
We're in standard.
Yeah, that's right. We're in standard form right now. And in order to get the zeros of something, do you know which form we have to go into?
To factor.
Yeah, that's right. We got to go into the factored form. Okay, so we have our factored. And in order to do that, what operation do we have to carry out, or what process? Yeah, that's right. We gotta carry out factoring. So we're gonna take our standard form here, and we know we have our A. This is our B, and our C, right? So we've gone over factoring before, so let's get right to it. Squared minus 2x, whoops, minus 112. Okay. So, when we're figuring out factoring, we find the factors of the first term. So the first term is 2x, so the factors would be 2x and
1x.
Yeah. 112 is going to have a lot of factors. So we actually made a little bit of an error here. What's the very first step to factoring? Do you remember? Yes, that's right. We shouldn't jump right into what we just did there. We should find the greatest common factor. Okay. What number can go into all of these?
2.
Yeah, that's right. 2 can come out of all of those. So we're going to take that term 2 out of each of these. So what that means is we're going to get y. The 2 comes to the outside of a set of brackets. And what's inside the brackets, we're going to work on factoring them. So this will become what?
1x.
Yeah, or just x squared. This will become what?
1.
Positive or negative?
Negative.
Good. Negative 1x. And this is a little tougher. This is going to be, do you know? Negative 56. Okay, that's what half of 112. So it's important that we realize, because these were negative and we divided by a positive number, these terms are going to stay negative. Okay, so we have our common factor now, and our goal is to factor this. So again, find the factors of the first term, which is just going to be 1x and 1x, and factors of 56. So, well, we have 1 and 56, and we might have to use our calculator. So 56 divided by 2, okay, that works. 2 and 28. So we have 2 and 28. Let's see if 3 goes in. Nope. 4. Well, that's not right. Divide by 4. 14. Okay, so we're coming down. 4 and 14. 5 won't go in.
Because it's not.
Yeah. 6 doesn't go in because I know my factor is a 6. 7 goes in 8 times. Yeah, 7 times 8 is that. And once we get to 7, we know the next term we would test is 8, so we know we've got them all. Okay, so we've got all of our factors here. And I'm just going to set them up into little columns. Okay. So the factors of the first term, we know those are going to be our first terms in the brackets. So before I even really go on with this, remember we're going to have to multiply across. The product is going to have to add up to our negative 1x, right? Y is going to equal 2, and we know we're going to have 2 brackets. And I already know these are going to be my first terms. There's no other option. So I'm going to have x and x. We just got to figure out what the other ones are going to be. Now, quickly looking at this, which ones are going to combine to make negative 1?
8 and 7.
That's right. 1 times 7 and 1 times 8. So that will give us 7x and 8x. How do I make that negative 1?
8.
Yeah, the 8 needs to be negative. If the 8's negative, that's negative 8 times positive 7. What will that give us?
56.
Yeah, and it'll give us negative 56. So we know that works out great. Now remember that rule where they technically have to go in the opposite bracket, but because these are the same, it's not going to make a difference. So we're going to have negative 8 in one bracket and positive 7 in the other bracket. So we've got our factored form. This is great. Finding zeros. Zeros is when we're on the x-axis. What's important about that is, do you know what the value of y is when we're on the x-axis?
0.
Yeah, it's 0. So, in order to find these 2 points, I got to set y equal to 0, okay, to find my zeros. So I'm going to substitute the number 0 in for y is equal to, we still have our factored form. Now, we're just going to try to make sense of this. What this means is 2 times some number times some number. Okay. Now I want to isolate for the x's. So how would I get rid of this 2? What can I do to get rid of that 2?
Divide it by 2.
Yeah. We're going to divide both sides of the equation by 2. Okay. We're going to see how that affects things. Do you know what 0 divided by 2 is going to be?
0.
Yeah, that's right. It's just going to be 0. These 2's are going to do what?
Cross out.
Yeah,
Become 1.
Yeah, they become 1. We don't need to write it in because it won't change anything. So we have x minus 8, x plus 7. Now, here's what's important. This is some number times some number. Well, in order to multiply 2 numbers and get 0, what does one of the numbers have to be?
Negative.
Well, not negative. There's only one number that multiplies to get a 0.
0.
Yeah. One of these has to be 0. In fact, it could be both of them. So what we're going to do here is we're going to split the equation. Now, normally, your teacher's probably told you, well, if this is negative 8, one of the zeros will be positive 8. If that's positive 7, the other will be negative 7, right?
Yeah.
This is the reason why. Well, let's test if this bracket is equal to 0, x minus 8, and this bracket being equal to 0. Well, when we go to isolate for when we isolate for x, when I bring negative 8 over, what does it become?
Positive.
Is equal to x, right? Exact opposite of that. And when I bring the 7 over, yeah. So that's the idea. That's why we're doing that. The reason I want to show you that, as a side note, is I'm not sure if you guys will touch on it, but let's say one of the brackets happened to say 2x plus 5. Well, the 0 wouldn't be negative 5 here. I would actually have to set this equal to 0, bring the 5 over, it would become positive, and then I'd actually have to divide each side by 2. So my x wouldn't be a whole number, it would be 5 over 2, or 2.5, okay? Now that doesn't have to do with this question, but that's the reason. You need to kind of have that idea in case you run into that and have to find the 0, okay? So, we got our 2 zeros. And what these are coordinates. When y is 0, 8, x is 8. That's one of our coordinates, x and y. And the other one, when x is negative 7, y is also 0. So we go back up to our sketch here. Let's get the entire page. That means one of these, well, it just happened to work out pretty good. That could be 8 and 0, and this one could be negative 7 and 0. Okay, so we found the zeros to this.